so we are going to go over multiplying and dividing fractions. We're not going to do any pesky mixed numbers just yet, but it'll be for next class. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you. There it is. Okay, so all my tabs, don't judge my tabs, but you can judge my tabs if you want to. So let's look at this. So right now we have 3 warm-up questions. From now on, you will have warm-up questions because the more math that you can practice, the better you get, okay? So let's look at these problems. We have convert 2 3/5 into a decimal. So hopefully you're looking at this one and you're saying, hey, I know what that is. That's a whole number. And a whole number goes on the left side of a decimal. I hope that that's what you remembered. 3/5, if you remember, is division. So 3 divided by 5. Decimal goes up and a 0. 5 doesn't go into 3, but it goes into 36 times. And so we end up with 2 6/10. And that's it. The quotient of 6 405 thousandths. So that means division. That's what quotient means. It means to divide. We need this outside number, that's the divisor, to be a whole number. So you're going to need to move the decimal once. Move the decimal once. So that means that this is now actually 64 5/100 divided by 21. So now when I'm doing this, I'm going to move my decimal up, and I don't know my 21s. I know 21 plus 21 equals 42, but that's not close enough. Then I know that if I add another 21, I get to 63. Well, that's close. So I'm just going to put a little line here. So 3 times 21 is 63. I subtract and I get 1. 10 goes, the 0 goes down. 21 does not go into 10, so I'm going to put a 0 and I'm going to bring my 5 down. I'm going to have to add some more 21s because that's not enough. Let's see. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So, and I got it exactly. So when I divided those out, I ended up with 3 5/100. 3 5/100. Okay, so then it says simplify 10 over 24. So I'm going to simplify 10 over 24. And when I simplify 10 over 24, what I'm really doing is I'm asking myself, okay, what can I divide the top and the bottom by that they both can divide by? So I look and I go, I think they can both divide by 2 because they're both even, which means they end in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. And then I go, wait, 5 can't divide by anything else, so that's it. Simplified. Okay, next. Multiplying fractions. So when we are multiplying fractions, we're not dealing with any mixed numbers, so we can skip step number 1 for right now. We'll talk about that next class. Step 2 is numerator times the numerator, so top times the top, and then the bottom times the bottom. And the last step, which is really, really important, is simplify. So if you notice here, when you are multiplying across, you end up with 4 over 40. And then you can think, okay, wait, I can divide 4 and 40 by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 40 divided by 4 is 10. Don't worry, we're going to practice. Practice, 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 because practice makes perfect. Or at least progress. Okay, so these are just multiplying fractions. So I'm going to do top times the top and bottom times the bottom. So 7 times 8 is 56. And 12 times 9 is 18. 9, 10, which gets me 108. Unfortunately, those are both even numbers, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, okay, let's divide them by 2. So if you do your division on the side, 56 divided by 2 would get me 28. And 108 would get me 54. So 108 divided by 2. And I go, wait, those are both even too. So they have to divide again by 2. And I would get 27 and then 14, right? 27 and 14, yeah. And I'm done. I can't divide anymore because 14 can only do 7 times 2 and 1 times 14. And I can't count by 2s to get to 27, and I can't count by 7s to get to 27. Okay, so then you have 3/4 times 6/10. So you would do top times the top and bottom times the bottom. So 3 times 6 gets me 18. 4 times 10 gets me 40. I look and I go, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this a little bit of a different way. I'm going to say 18. What can I multiply to get to 18? Well, I can do 1 times 18. I can do 2 times 9. Or I can do 3 times 6. And I'm going to go, okay, I can't count by 18s to get to 40. I can't count by 9s to get to 40. I can't count by 6s to get to 40. I can't count by 3s to get to 40. So the only thing I can do is divide by 2. I can only divide by 2. But that is another way that you can do it. You can do like a factor T is I think what they call it. But in this case, we should have just said, they're even, let's divide by 2. I didn't. I worked harder. So 18 divided by 2 is 9, 40 divided by 2 is 20, and that is simplified. Okay, so it says Helena opened a delicious pizza box. Actually, I don't really care about that. I don't need that. She was sad to see that only 3/4 of the pizza was remaining. She ate 2/5 of the remaining pizza. So how much of the original pizza did Helena eat of the original pizza? So what it's asking you to do when it says 2/5 of something, it's telling you to divide. 2/5 of 3/4 is telling you, I'm sorry, what did I say? Divide? No, multiply. Oh my Lanta, I'm teaching you wrong. Of. So 2/5 of 3/4 tells me to multiply. So 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 5 is 20. And I go, okay, this time I'm not going to be confused. I'm going to divide by 2 because they're both even. I'm not going to work super, super crazy hard like I did on that last one. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 3/10. And I go, is 3/10 smaller than 3/4? And the answer is yes. So this answer makes sense because there's only 3/4 of the pizza remaining. If she eats some of it, only some of it, only 2/5 of it, then she is not eating that entire rest of the pizza, although that sounds delicious. Okay, so Tomas is preparing a cake recipe that calls for 2/3 a cup of oil for one recipe. He needs to prepare 15 cakes. He's preparing a lot of cakes. So how many cups of oil does he need for his cakes? So hopefully you decided to do 2/3. Oh no. 2/3 times 15. Every whole number has 1 as its denominator. So 15 over 1. 2 times 15 equals 30. 3 times 1 equals 3. And 30 divided by 3, it's 10. So I need 10 cups of oil. That's a lot of oil. My goodness. Okay, so dividing fractions is easy as pie. You flip the second number and you multiply. So multiplying, and then you would just multiply fractions. So dividing fractions, that's just a quick little like song. Dividing fractions is easy as pie. You flip the second number and you multiply. And the reason why is because sometimes songs just help us to figure out what we're doing. So if you notice, I circled the 1/2. The 1/2 is what's going to flip because it's the second number. It's called the reciprocal. So we're going to flip it. And when we flip it, we can then turn it to multiplication problem. So 3 times 2 gets, so if you flip this, your new problem is 3/4 times 2/1. So 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 1 is 4. This can divide by 2, and then we turned it back into a mixed number as well. Okay, let's do an example. So dividing fractions is easy as pie. You flip the second number and you multiply. So you flip the second number and then you multiply. So 9 times 5 is 45 and 10 times 4 is 40. A lot of times with dividing fractions, you're going to end up with an improper fraction. So the top is going to be bigger than the bottom. So we can divide these by 5 because they end in a 0 and a 5, and we would end up with 9/8. So 9/8 is a correct answer, or 1 1/8. If you're like, how'd you get that? If you remember when we turn improper to mixed, we divide. So 1 1/8. Okay, so it says a fancy restaurant put some butter dishes at each table. They divided, okay, so it's already telling us we're dividing. They divided some butter, 8/10 of a kilogram of butter. They divided it evenly to put 1/4 of a kilogram in each dish. So they're taking a bunch of butter and they're dividing it out. And then they're asking, okay, how many butter dishes can you actually fill? So you should be doing 8/10 divided by 1/4. Dividing fractions is easy as pie. You flip the second number and then you multiply. So 8 times 4 is 32. 10 times 1 is 10. So I'm going to divide by 2 because that doesn't look right. And I would get 16/5. That's simplified. But that doesn't actually help me to figure out how many butter dishes are filled. 16/5 is not an answer about how many butter dishes I fill. So we would have to divide this out. So what this means is that I can fill 3 1/5 butter dishes. So really you can fill 3 butter dishes, but I can fill 3 1/5 a butter dish. Last question. Dean has a piece of wood that is 3/4 of a foot in length. He needs to cut pieces. So that would mean if I have a board and I'm cutting pieces, I'm dividing it into pieces. So he has 3/4 of a board. He's dividing it into 1/16. So how many pieces can he cut? Well, dividing fractions is easy as pie. You flip the second number and you multiply. So this will be 4, and then 16 times 3 is 48. And 48 divided by 4 gets me 12. So 12 pieces, he can get 12 pieces of cuts of wood of 1/16. Please make sure you do your weekly assignment always. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, we will do multiplying and dividing with mixed numbers. If you have questions, always feel free to reach out because I am here and I am ready to help you. Have a good day.